gentlemen, League Group standing for the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Melanie Morley, accompanied by the Managing Director, Denise McGuckin.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 10th meeting, the 10th Full Council meeting of the 10th of July 2024. Given the football is on this evening, I will plough on as quick as possible. Item 1. To receive any apologies from absent members.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've received apologies from Councillor Lee, Moore, Young, Brash, Thompson and Holbrook. Are there any others?
Council Blair and Anne France.
Item 2. To receive any declarations of interest from any members. Item 3. To deal with any business required by statute to be done before any other business. Item 4. To approve the minutes of the last meetings of the Council held on the 22nd of February 2024, the special meeting of Council held on the 18th of March 2024, the extraordinary meeting of Council on the 16th of May 2024, and the annual Council meeting on the 21st of May 2024 as the current record. Item 5. To answer any questions from members of the Council on the minutes of the last meeting of the Council. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I refer to the minutes item 111. And it's fair to say that since that business was conducted, a fair amount has happened. There's been a bit of swapping over of power and the sea of labour faces across there, which I have to say I'm very happy about. So thank you very well done, you. But, of course, on February 3rd, the Council voted to increase council tax by 2.99% and include the 2% social precept increase. It was something that was opposed unanimously by the Labour group. They voted for a complete freeze in council tax, a complete freeze of the social care precepts. But I remember the then deputy saying to the group the cost of the savings, the value of the original 4.99%, so that's about £2.5 million each year, continuing. So it seems to me that had they been successful in securing the total freeze on council tax, the Labour leadership would now be implementing the savings to its deputy leader, the then deputy leader of the union. So I can't help but think that the Labour group now has an unexpected windfall on their hands. £500,000 a year of general monies and £1 million a year in adult social care. So my question is, can I ask the Labour group, now that they're in power, do they plan to return these monies to council taxpayers, perhaps in the form of future council tax freeze or perhaps even a reduction, or whether they intend to invest this unexpected windfall for them into services? It is the second might I just give two appeals to them. And first, the £500,000 year, which they weren't expecting. We directed in its entirety to neighbourhood services. Everyone knows that my big thing is the state of our town and the state of our streets. And that sum of money directed to neighbourhood services to invest in street cleaning, staff and vehicles would help to defray a lot, the 80% reduction that's happened over the years. And second, on terms of social services, the Labour Group did oppose the charges for telecare, which are now imminent. And my plea to them would be to repeal them as they vowed to do at the time, because in my view especially, the £6 a week service is useless, and the £14.40 charge, which is just bringing forward what they have now, is to me unaffordable to people on low incomes and state pensions. And the figures, of course, to implement that will be half, less than half, of the £1 million windfall that they have. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the question, Councillor Wallace. As you know, I think we've inherited quite a serious disaster of various things. You've already highlighted one, the telecare, which we have put on hold, which we are looking at. And there are other things as well that we're having to deal with as quickly as possible. So all I can say to your question at this present time is that we're working on trying to get things back to some kind of normality, as it were, and looking to improve things for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you. The £500,000 that we benefited from was actually used to set the budget. So it's already been taken, so it's not there, which is why we only had a 1% council tax and 2% annual social care precept.
Would you like to come back, Councillor?
I'll come back, thank you very much. Oh, I was trying to turn it off, so sorry if I've been breathing into my microphone. No, completely understood. My question alludes to the fact that you wouldn't have had that had the Labour Group decision gone their way, and the Labour Group had told this council that they had the savings in place, or the 2.5 million, the full 4.9%. So that's probably in the bag. Thank you very much for putting the telecare back on the agenda. If I can come back with one last question, is if you have your time again, would you go for a council tax rate, given what you've said?
Madam Deputy Mayor, that's not a question on the minutes, which is what the item is on the agenda, so if you've got nothing to say, that's fine.
Well said.
Thank you for clarifying. So if we move on to item 6,
Let everyone know matters expected to be looked at.
item 7, to receive any announcements from the chair or the head of paid service. On your tables this evening is a letter written to Mayor Carol Thompson and myself, Deputy Mayor. I would like to read it out this evening from our Member of Parliament, Mr Jonathan Brash. Dear Madam Mayor, I wanted to write to you ahead of full council meeting this week, and I would be grateful if you could share this correspondence with members at the meeting. As the town's newly elected MP, I wanted to set out clearly at the first opportunity my commitment to fundamentally changing the relationship between the MP's office and the council. We must be partners with one focus: improving Hartlepool. We will not always agree. Indeed, disagreement is important and healthy in getting to the correct answers. However, it is my firm belief that my job is to be your champion in Parliament and your advocate with government ministers. Times are tough, and I cannot promise immediate solutions to the challenges we face. It will take time to reverse the damage of 14 years of the Conservatives in office. However, we must begin, and to that end I have corresponded with your Managing Director this week in preparation for raising this crisis in children's social care with ministers. Finally, I want to make clear that my door is open to all elected members of all political persuasions. If your agenda is to improve Hartlepool, then you will always have an ally in me. Yours, Jonathan Brash, Member of Parliament for Hartlepool. On that note as well, I think as Madam Deputy Mayor this evening, I on behalf of all of us, would like to thank Jill Mortimer, the previous MP, for her work completed in Hartlepool. Thank you. Item 8. To dispose of business, if any, remaining from the last meeting, and to receive the report of any committee to which such business was referred by consideration.
That goes on, Madam. Thank you, Secretary.
Item 9. To consider reports from the Council's committees and to receive questions and answers on any of these reports. Number 1. The report of the Constitution Committee.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. The Constitution Committee met on the 8th of July to consider proposals relating to the Local Joint Consultative Committee, Personnel Committee, the Forward Plan and changes to the wording of grant funding within the Constitution. The minutes of the meeting have been circulated and members are asked to consider the recommendations. I would ask, however, that recommendation 2, which relates to the Personnel Subcommittee changes, be deferred to the next meeting of full council just to allow further time for the issue of co-option of an independent member and proportionality to be considered further. And also there is an amendment to the recommendation in relation to the Local Joint Consultative Committee. The delegation currently reads that it will be authority be granted to the Managing Director, goes on to say in consultation with the Chair and Trade Union representative, but should say in consultation with the Chair of Finance and Policy Committee and the Chair of the Local Joint Consultative Committee, as well as the Trade Union representative. Thank you.
Councillor Lobby.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. And the very matter at hand is the first item on the decisions of the Constitution Committee that took place on Monday afternoon. As I moved it, I've got a very clear and strong recollection of what I said. And what I said, which was not unanimously upheld, it was 5-2 if I remember the vote, was that the Joint Consultative Committee should be regularised within the committee structures of the Council and diaried accordingly. And I suggested, and it was approved, 5-2, as I said, that the chair of the committee, which Brenda, the leader of the council, pointed out was Martin, who's sitting somewhere in the room, there he is, should be the person in consultation with the leader as to when the committee would meet and its frequency with regard to the potential necessity of meeting more than once in a committee cycle. That too was approved. So when I read this, I do not remember, because I didn't say it, that the authority be granted to the Managing Director in consultation with whoever, because that's not what I said. And I think Sue and Bob were both present, and hopefully they will remember that's what I said, because they voted against it, actually. So that minute is incorrect. And it's as simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor Longing. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Chair. So can I just... I think that what Councillor Boddy has just said refers to getting together to decide on the remit and the regularisation of the meetings. Then the other thing that the Managing Director is involved in is if a delegation came to her, because we can't take delegations as such, it goes to the Managing Director. So I think it's two different things. And I think it probably should reflect that initially it's to gather together the chair of the local joint consultative committee, a union official, and the lead and the chair of finance and policy, just in order to have a look at what we think we should be, how often we think we should be meeting, and so on. So I think there are two different things.
Thank you for clarifying, Councillor.
I'm sorry I didn't clarify it earlier.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I think that's going to be further clarified with legal and governance as well. Thank you. Councillor Creevy, my apologies.
Lisa, was yours on that point?
No,
Mine's
it's fine.
All right. Mine's on 3.2. It was just to get some clarification on those 5 members. Are they going to be coming from audit and governance committee still, or are they going to be coming from the collective?
Yes, I was present and it wasn't, so what we agreed is this will be the appeals committee will be a standalone committee, it won't be a subcommittee of audit and governance. So once they've had a chance to look at how we can vote an independent person into it, we will then be asked, and done the political proportionality, we will then be asked in the parties to nominate someone and be a standalone committee before we get to it.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just for clarity for me, I've got 2 sections. The subcommittee, which we're going to rename, the union rep, is that in relation to the appeals arising from departmental staff reviews? And if so, then who's going to fight for the people who are not part of the union? So if we do one side of the board, we need to be able to put somebody on there to fight for the other side of the board. Not everybody can afford to be in a union, and the answer is not, well, get in a union to be able to have that person to fight for you. The other one is, what's the cost implications of having another committee? Are we going to be, I know you're going to decide this, but is it going to be another 5 PM committee meeting, which then people get paid all the time or time back, etc., etc.? I think we need to look at what type of cost implications are involved in this type of additional committee. The other one, and I apologise, is in relation to the grant funding, which is 3.4. With the grant funding, is there an actual limit that they can decide on? Or is it actually going to be, because you can get some extraordinary grant funding through, so is there actually going to be a limit on what they can decide? And will it still come back to full council so the committee can make a decision, but overall, does it still come back to full council for us to be able to have a scale? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Hargreaves, you are next, but I'm not quite sure whether you want to respond to Councillor Smith or if Councillor Harrison would like to respond to Councillor Smith.
No, I'm happy to give an update. I mean, I'd have some comments about the unions and the union movement, and it's. But I'll save them. I'll save them.
Are you sure? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. So on the expenses side, just to clarify, because it's not a policy committee, it will be meeting after 5 o'clock. So it will be meeting at a normal time during the day. And as far as the union is concerned, I'm not quite sure, are you talking about the fact that some people aren't represented?
Yeah.
But that's nothing to do with the actual appeals committee. That would be to do with whoever is appealing to get some representation. It doesn't have to be a union.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So what's the reason of that union rep being on that committee?
So I think you're getting mixed up with the 2 committees.
Right,
So the union The union rep
Yes.
is on the local joint consultative committee, which is to do with having members, officers and union reps in that committee. This committee
Yeah.
is a different thing and it doesn't have a union rep on it.
Right.
Does that answer your questions, Councillor Smith?
Yeah, and then right on when we've got back.
So when local authority and departments apply for the grant, they do that in consultation with the Sheriff Policy Committees. That's always been the case. And then to receive it, it's only at the band and pass the finance and policy. What we're saying now is it just should go to the actual policy committee. It would never come to council to be considered.
Councillor Hargreaves.
To be honest, I don't really have anything to say. I just wanted to go that timing thing. That's really funny. We introduced that at a time when Councillor Brash is no longer here. I mean, he's the worst offender. Give it a click then. I'd like to see that. Just a general point on the unions. I mean, the wonderful thing about the union movement is even those who don't contribute and support the union movement and the work that it does still get to benefit from it. I mean, a great example of that would be the national minimum wage that the unions fought for and working conditions that the unions fought for that everybody benefits from. I mean, the fact that you don't have somebody who isn't the union doesn't have a representative, I can assure you that the unions are fighting for everybody who works for the local authority. But my question was about to the committee actually. I just wondered if there had been any discussion about public questions and the reinstatement, because I noticed that they're not in here in terms of recommendation, and I just wondered whether there was more discussion. It was quite a controversial subject a while ago. In fact, it was one that helped me move across the floor, as I remember at the time. But I just wondered if there'd been any thoughts about the reinstatement of public questions.
I don't think so, Councillor Hargreaves, but I will refer that back to the Constitution Committee. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Can I just confirm, just for Councillor Roddy, that we'll clarify in the minutes that there's two recommendations. One that the LJCC be regularised in diary rates, and one that delegates myself together with the chairs and the union officials with determine the real frequency of membership. And then that hopefully satisfies the point you were raising, Councillor Roddy.
So could you just say the second part again, so I'm absolutely clear?
Delegated to myself, together with the Chair of Finance and Policy, the Chair of the LJCC and the trade unions to get together and determine the remit, frequency and membership of the LJCC. And we'll come up with the terms of reference and we'll agree that one.
And take it back to the Constitution?
Yes.
I think that would satisfy me in terms of addressing the concern that I raised.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roddy.
Deputy Mayor, just to confirm that the other recommendations are approved. And accept. Thank you.
Just to explain about the clocks, I should have maybe done this at the beginning. Councillor Thompson and I attended a course that recommended we put the clocks up and we stick to the timescales in the Constitution. The clocks will be ran by Ms Martin, Director of Legal, when she remembers we did. But going forward, we are going to stick to the limitations. So please familiarise yourself with the Constitution and be respectful for one another. Thank you. Councillor Little.
I do not approve what
Not on that.
Not on that.
On the
Yes.
You dissent, yes.
Oh.
You dissent and the previous recommendation.
Right,
And we'll
okay.
to write the board to all of that.
Sorry, Deputy, which is the short hands, basically. So if you do a short hands for the points that we've covered in the Constitution Committee and the recommendations, you just do a short hands.
This is not the clock, is it?
No, it's not the clock, it's on the Constitution. No, the clock's just happening.
Managing Director.
Item 10, to consider any other business specified in the summons to the meeting and to receive questions and answers on any of those items.
There are none.
Thank you. Item 11, to consider reports from the policy committees. A, proposals in relation to the council's approved budget and policy framework, and B, proposals for departures from the approved budget and policy framework.
Once again, there are none.
Thank you. Item 12, to consider motions in the order in which notice has been received.
Again, there are none.
Thank you. Item 13, to receive the Managing Director's report and to pass such resolutions thereon as may be deemed necessary.
I'm taking the commitment off that everybody's read my report, and the only points I would ask members to advise is, are there any nominations for agenda item 8 and the vacancies which are independent and conservative, and also any others. Sorry, I think there are some in the outside of the appointments as well.
Councillor Greeley.
Yeah, we've got 2 nominations for outside bodies. We'd like to nominate Councillor Mayer for the Teesside International Airport Authority Committee, and we'd like to nominate Councillor Georgeson for the Inner-Smith Education Trust.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Councillor Harrison. Councillor nominations.
No, are there any comments? Sorry, are there any points of clarification on that?
Thanks, Chair. I would just like to acknowledge
Start again. Good luck.
the great work that's been done and commented on here in your report about the Great Ofsted report on children's services and our children's homes. And I think that we really do need to acknowledge that and realise what a great how lucky we are actually in Hartlepool to have such an excellent children's services. I would also like to just acknowledge the awful tragedy that happened at Carlton. And I think the work you said is very nice.
Just for everyone's benefit, I wrote personally to the mother of young girl, and I also wrote to every agency thanking them for their support and contribution, and everything on the day from Hartlepool Borough Council. And I've received acknowledgements and thanks from those agencies.
Thank you, Managing Director. Our thoughts and prayers on his family. Councillor Greeley.
Yeah, can I just go back to the report, the Ofsted reports on the children's homes and children's services? I just wanted to say that it's really nice that I've been able to take over children's services in such a great position. But I'd also like to offer my thanks to the previous leader for children's services for his enthusiasm in being involved in that report.
Thank you, Councillor Greeley. It's noted. Item 14. My apologies. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to sort of echo Councillor Harrison's comments, particularly on point 3 of the business report. As one of the board members in which, point 2, as one of the board members when the Star Centre is based, there was particular concern at one point from some constituents about the children's home being based there. I just want to say thank you for the work of the officers to make it go swimmingly. Just to say that it's been very well welcomed by residents in the area. So the Council Scarborough received many positive comments on the doorsteps in recent months. I just want to say really welcome to the team in the future. Should we get more children's homes, just other board members across the town to lay the fantastic job. It will take us
actually keep our children in Hartlepool and look after them. So I need members to approve that hopefully. Do we show of hands? So can we do a show of hands, please?
For a £1 million borrowing?
To borrow, yeah, to make sure that we have our own children's homes in the town. It's actually built, it's an item 7 from business report.
I think for a new town, we need a little bit more discussion on it.
So what the report actually sets out that we're asking to propose a borrowing of £1 million. However, individual schemes would only progress subject to a business case, and the proposal results in any lower cost than private placements. So we would only do this if the actual position means that the cost would be lower than private placements. And again, that would be delegate decisions to myself in consultation with the leader of the council, the chair of the Children's Services Committee, Section 151 officer and the monitoring officer. And that enables us to move at pace, otherwise we'll lose properties and actually we'll end up incurring more costs.
Councillor Greenby.
Yeah, I think all members, particularly those who were at Children's Services Committee last night, know the pressures that we're under, particularly in relation to children's support cost of children's placements, and that goes through about the country. And I'm really delighted to see Jonathan's letter to Angela Raynass today, which is on our desks, raising this issue as well. So I hope all members can support it.
Thank you, Councillor Greenby. Point noted.
So, Madam Mayor, can we actually ask for a show of hands if you're in support of that? If not, we can record it afterwards. So those in favour of allocating £1 million to enable this council, we will do detailed business cases. We're not going to run away with them.
Can I just ask one question?
You can, Councillor Smith, yes.
Thank you. My only concern, and I apologise, it's £1 million, you know, it's not like it's a couple of quid. My concern is, can you remember the last time that the children's homes that we had to move to the related with spoken about, and we were all there, the people who have not just been elected, but we were all there, and we were a bit side-washed with some of the information that we were given, and the decision had already been made, and we felt like we were an afterthought. Now, I'm quite happy for you to borrow £1 million, but what I'm concerned with is that situation happening again, and I would never say, there's no point in sniggering, but I would be happy to say, let's do it, because I know it's right to do, but I'd like the confirmation to be able to not be put in a situation where before we had to call that leave.
Just to clarify, my understanding as the Managing Director has just explained is it's to delegate authority to the Managing Director to progress individual schemes, and the previous was a scheme that then came back in consultation with the leader and the chair of Children's Services. So I do think there is further work. So yes, it's just not, yeah. Councillor Hargreaves, I believe you've had your hand up. Do you still?
Well, it was just to say that the previous example that you cited, Councillor Smith, was something that was put forward, and this side of the chamber wanted more information on. So
This side of the chamber wanted more information as well.
Well, yeah, well that's fine, but you guys were in charge, so you probably could have had that information, brought that to it beforehand, but anyway, never mind. So what we did was we challenged it and then brought it back for discussion here. Now that is something that is open to you to do at any time. I mean, these papers have been out for a period of time, and actually a conversation with anybody involved or one of the officers, or even actually bringing it before this evening would have been, I guess what I'm saying. So yeah, I get that you have concerns, it's right that you have concerns, as we did, and we raised them. But in actual fact, in relation to this, we're not asking for £1 million, as Councillor Morley rightly outlined. Actually, what we're looking for is agreement for the officers to look at a situation, and if it is cheaper for us to buy our own home than it is to place that individual in a private provider somewhere else, then a business case will be created and brought back and delegate authority to be able to make that decision, to actually save the authority money. What we're not asking to do is to go away and start buying those stuff with £1 million. It's a slightly different situation, but as I said at the beginning, You were allowed to ask any of those questions, and you are now.
The same way you were allowed to ask
And you did.
questions, but you didn't. You waited till it came back
Well, no, we
to
didn't ask for a
council.
special. That's not true.
Thank you.
It was just an
Thank
answer.
you, Councillor Hargreaves. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you very much. The council recently borrowed, I think, somewhere between £600,000 and £700,000 to refurbish a facility in my ward in Throston, and that's gone down particularly well. I think that it's now up and running. This is the sort of thing that I particularly would like to see. I think there are two issues here. One is the council needs to save money in a budget that just seems to explode every time you look at it. And then the other thing is the human side of it, which is not sending out children bloody miles away from their families. So on both counts, I would be more than happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. We shall move to the vote.
Thank you. And we can do it by show of hands. So those in favour of the allocation of funds in for, is that unanimous? It looks unanimous. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Managing Director. Item 14, to receive questions from and provide answers to the public in relation to matters of which notice has been given under Rule 9.
We haven't received any public questions on this now.
Item 15, to answer questions of members of the Council under Rule 10. A. Questions to the chairs about recent decisions of Council committees and forums without notice under Council Procedure 10.1. B. Questions or notice to the chair of any committee or forum under Council Procedure Rule 10.2.
No, that we haven't received any.
Thank you for clarifying.
No.
Without further ado, we wish England the best of luck, I am sure, and thank you for attending this evening. This meeting is now coming to a close.
Please stand.